USA, USA. Trump 2024. We're gonna finally be free. No more slavery. Let's just not hope he's gonna go to the wall with the tiny hat on. It's finally gonna be over. The misery. Everything's gonna change now. USA. Make raw chicken free again. Well, let's see, bro. We can always hope and pray for the best. Anyway, let's talk about how nature clearly signals to you what is good for you and what's not. But we have been so corrupted by every which way possible. But now we're talking about taste buds, the food we eat. Our taste buds been so corrupted by the man-made matrix foods that are full of chemicals, drugs, unnatural combinations of things that hypnotize our senses and make us addicts. So we don't know anymore which way is up, which way is down. We cannot trust our senses anymore. But in the nature, or if you quit that shit and withdraw or detox the toxicity out of your body, you can get at least a fair bit of your natural senses back, and then your taste buds. And you have to have knowledge which foods are actually natural and which foods not, because you never can trust that man-made shit. It's always corrupted, and it will corrupt you and destroy you. But when we strictly speak about natural foods, like raw chicken, like raw meat, our taste buds, when I eat this raw meat that is from a local farm, organic farm, where the meat is grass-fed, very well raised. I've visited this farm many times. When I put this raw meat into my mouth, it tastes like raw meat first, but then if I go get some meat from the supermarket that's not raised how beef is supposed to be raised, first, it doesn't look as vibrant usually as these, or at least way more naturally raised beef. The process still might not be completely natural, but this beef, it's pretty good, healthy beef. They live a good life in the farm. And my taste buds say this raw meat is pretty freaking good compared to the other experiences of raw meat I have had. Your taste buds are basically signaling you that this meat is way more nutritious than the other meat you might have been eating from the supermarket, some garbage, factory farm raised bullshit ass meat. That's terrible for everybody. With raw meat, because there's no condiments, there's no salt, No spices, no man-made this or that. It's very natural food. You can taste these differences super easy. Your body can start to detect the better quality meat very easily. You can also sometimes just see it, but that doesn't work 100% of the time in my experience. It's same with the chicken and all that. That's why usually the brains of the animals are usually the most prized, or like, what's the freaking English word? Sought after foods in tribal and natural communities. These people always like the brains the most, and it makes sense because the brains have almost the most amount of nutrients. Some nutrients it has more than any other part of the animal or any other plant food for that matter. And surprise, surprise, for example in Finland we cannot even get brains anymore. It has the most amount of nutrients your brains need. Most amount of vitamin D, I think, from any freaking food. And a lot of fat too. Omega-3s, saturated fat, cholesterol, basically full of vitamins. And this is why these tribal people always liked that the most, because it tastes the better for their mouth pleasures, their taste buds. The liver is one example. Now many times people can't even comprehend how I don't vomit eating raw chicken, for example. But this is just out of ignorance, because people don't understand that raw chicken tastes good. Like I've said in many of my videos, raw chicken almost tastes better like cooked chicken if you do it without any salt, any spices, any of that. Why is that? Because raw chicken has more nutrients. Depending how you cook the chicken, it can have over 50% more nutrients available for your body in this piece of raw chicken than if I would cook it. So that's why when I put this in my mouth, it's actually very pleasurable, just like eating any other food that tastes good. But this is pretty much the most natural food you can eat. Now these chickens might have not been grown in optimal environments, but still, it's the best kind of chicken I can get. You get the point. It's same with the fruits and vegetables also. The fruits and vegetables grown in the soils that have more nutrition, they grow and they have more nutrition for human beings. And those vegetables and fruits always, I think there's a few studies done with this, they taste the best for human beings. And it makes perfect freaking sense. But I have noticed that with the beef there, the change, the flavor and the experience is the biggest one, and you can sense it even more with the raw meats, because you don't cook it with any oils or anything, you don't mask the natural flavor of the meat. So that's one of the things I have now know myself very clearly. Also the things that are bad for us, we can taste them too. For example, many things that are poisonous in the nature, they are extremely bitter. So if we taste a little bit of them, we go. But when I would raw meat, in my mouth. It's very pleasurable. But yeah, that's one thing I've noticed, that you can taste the food quality and you can feel the food quality, and there's a big difference. The beef has the biggest difference I've noticed, because the beef is raised with not so good practices and with better practices, and I try to get the beef from those farms that practice the more natural practices, and you can always taste it, the beef, and even more so when you eat it raw. You can taste the difference very much so, and you can feel the difference. For example, the beef from these farms that tastes better, it's always way easier for me to digest. It feels like nothing in my stomach. But sometimes if I eat raw meat from the supermarket and I taste the beef and it tastes a little bit off, there's like some off thing about it. That kind of beef eaten raw can give you some, like, it kind of sits in your stomach sometimes. I've never gotten sick, food poisoning, never gotten diarrhea from beef, but I have gotten experiences where it kind of sits in your stomach for a little bit. But with this beef, no, at least not yet. Liver is interesting one, because that's always also the most sought after part of the animal by other predators. Also, they always go for the liver first, usually. And the tribal people, many of them eat the liver raw still, always have eaten the liver raw. But we have decided that liver is kind of icky, it doesn't taste good, and there's this big psychosocial, like, mental block there. That's where I was going with the raw chicken also, that people have this psychological block because they have been brainwashed basically against natural foods, and liver is the big one. But sometimes the liver also might be the most toxic part of the animal, even though it detoxes the toxicity. But if the animal is raised very poorly, the liver might still contain some of the toxicity, and when you eat it, sometimes the liver might taste kind of bad. But if you get, for example, fresh liver, and you get a liver from healthy animals, the difference in taste is huge. I have experienced this myself many times. The taste is much more pleasant. I actually really like it. Like, I think it's just a mental thing for most people. They've been brainwashed or whatever. They're so used to the matrix food still. But sometimes, if you can get fresh liver from a good animal, the liver is even sweet because it has glycogen still in it. And the tribal people, they always go for the liver. Other predators, carnivore animals, always go for the liver. So, taste buds, our senses tell us a lot if they are not corrupted. See you on the next one, USA. Don't put that tiny hat on.